Well, welcome back, everyone. We have Jerry Pitts here, our Lima attorney. And Jerry, we're going to be discussing something about the Supreme Court and maybe the Code of Ethics. So,
out of 34 years, Supreme Court justices have never had a code of ethics.
Yes, I know.
But now they're starting to talk about term limits. So then with the term limits, they decided, okay, we're going to come up with a code of ethics. Now, actually, if you look into history, no Supreme Justice but one has been impeached, and that's the only way you can get rid of them once they have been placed. And that was in 1805.
That was a while ago.
Yes, and it was his name was Samuel Chase. He's made history because he's still the only one that's ever been impeached. And so they put together now. They said, "Oh, we got a 9-page code of ethics."
9 pages.
Yes.
Okay.
Supposedly about what we do, can't do, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. However, it's like the honor system. They would have to turn themselves in for violating their own code of ethics, which is not going to occur because there is no other mechanism that can enforce if they're doing something. Now, they pointed out that Clarence Thomas, Justice Clarence Thomas, is one of the biggest culprits of taking gifts. He has accepted gifts for luxury cruises, paid for his mother's house, private schools. Now, he's still the same Clarence Thomas who went to school on the back of affirmative action, but as of last year, voted against it. Now, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, you know, justices in all the other courts, lower than the Supreme Court, has a code that they have to follow, and they have someone to monitor that to make sure it is followed, and then there can be consequences. Congress is probably the only one who can look at the Supreme Court, but they can't do very much to them, except maybe look at what some of their opinions have been, but they can't change them. The Supreme Court would have to monitor or change it or do something with it themselves. Now you say, well, what is the behavior that they're saying they're not going to do? Favoritism, discrimination, bribery, fraud, inside trading, conflicts of interest. Well, according to what I've read here in some of the research, several of the justices have violated them already. None of them are going to come out and say, I'm going to discriminate against somebody, or that I'm favoring this group versus that group. And so what you're saying is it's just another piece of paper, actually. And maybe it's to soothe the public and regenerate some confidence by the public. However, having a law that cannot be enforced, it's just senseless.
Right. I mean, there's no one to hold them accountable right now. So
at this point, no.
Yeah.
And the only way you can hold them accountable is impeach them. And I can't see our Congress doing anything as a group, let alone making any decisions, because they tend to fight over the weather when it's snowing already. And then you can look out the window. Some of them say snowflakes, some say flurries. And then they're going to have to vote on it? I doubt it. Yeah. So there's nothing much that's going to happen. And there is still no restrictions on what gifts a Supreme Court justice can have.
Right.
So you can give them whatever, and supposedly that's not going to have any impact on any decision made. Certainly they should recluse themselves, but rarely do they do that. Now, congressmen or Congress people can accept a gift over $50. How often do you think that's happening?
Right. Well, Jerry, I think that, they made a step, but they got a long way to go, right? So.
Yes, that's always those steps, just like they did Brown versus the Board of Education.
Yeah.
They made one step forward and went 5 backwards.
All right. Well, Jerry, thank you so much for coming. It goes by so quick, doesn't it?
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, thanks for coming out here. And don't go away because medical news is up next.